Councilman for District 2. You may be aware I was appointed to my position about April, 3 months ago. My appointment was to fill a vacancy in the City Council, and I'll be in this position until April of 2027, when I'll either be up for re-election or somebody else will take the seat, I guess. We have some guests tonight that are going to be speaking, giving us some presentations. First, we have Deputy Public Works Director Gail Sturdivant, City Traffic Engineer Todd Frisbee. From Colorado Springs Police Department, we're going to have Commander Patrick David, who's not here yet, but we have Lieutenant Jason Ledbetter and Officer Brian Corrado, who I know from my neighborhood watch activities. From Colorado Springs Utilities, we have Scott Scirillo, Manager of Pricing and Rates. Following a brief introduction by me, then we'll turn over to have brief presentations by them, and then the rest of the night we'll open it up for question and answer period. We do have some special guests here tonight. Council President Lieutenant Carl Iverson, been instrumental in getting me onboarded very quickly. I see Rich Belady, Director of Public Works in the back. Let's see. Okay, I've been a District 2 resident for 17 years. I lived in Wolf Ranch. I was stationed in Fort Carson from 2007 to 2009. And then when I retired from the Army in 2012, I moved back to Colorado Springs and been living in Flying Horse ever since then. Retired career Army officer. I currently work for the United States Department of the Interior for the time being. For me, the reason why I wanted to serve in the City Council, I looked at it as an extension of my public service career, first in the military and then for the federal government, and now there's an opportunity to get back to my adopted community. Prior to being on City Council, I was in the Planning Commission for the last 2 years. I was the chair of the Planning Commission at the time. I'm currently also the board president of the Flying Horse Homeowners Association, really for the past 3.5 years. That's kind of how I got involved in really more neighborhood-related public service, which is starting at the HOA neighborhood. So I jokingly tell people, don't be careful about volunteering for your HOA, you may influence City Council. One of the questions I was asked in my public City Council interview was, what will you do to ensure that you're listening to citizens concerned and not just developer or activist groups? And my response was I wanted to host town halls and other events to engage District 2 residents and understand their concerns. So with less than 90 days in the job, I'm hosting my first town hall to hear from you and hopefully give you some updates from these gentlemen and ladies here tonight. With that, we'll go ahead and move into our brief updates. First, we'll have the Director of Public Works, Gail Sturdivant.
Thank you. So as Councilor Casey mentioned, my name is Gail Sturdivant, I'm City Engineer and the Deputy Public Works Director. I'm just going to give you an overview of some capital transportation projects that are going to happen in the district and talk a little bit about some 2C repaving efforts. The one thing though, I want to give you a little bit of background about what Public Works does. We have 6 divisions. We have City Engineering, which delivers a lot of capital projects with the huge focus on transportation. We have Operations and Maintenance that maintain roadway systems or drainage systems, snow removal, along with a plethora of other activities, but just some of the highlights that people are interested in. We run the parking enterprise, the stormwater enterprise, Mountain Metro Transit is part of Public Works, and traffic engineering, which the city traffic engineer was able to join me today as well. So just to give an overview of what Public Works means here in Colorado Springs. The first major project I wanted to give you a high-level overview on is the Powers Boulevard extension going from Interquest up to Voyager. We are going to be completing that work in 3 phases in conjunction with several public and private partners in the area. If you've been out in that area right now, they've finished some utility relocations near Flying Horse Club Drive and Ridgeline Drive, and they started bridge installation on both those roads as well. If you're in that area, they started driving piles for the bridges. I got a video, and it will only happen Monday through Friday during the work hours, 7 to 7, and they're actually trying to narrow that to keep the noise down in the neighborhood. And what's going to happen after that is that we're going to be working on mainline construction. That means extending the roadway from Voyager going north. There's going to be a series of other bridges, and then the last phase we'll be doing an interchange at right there at Interquest itself. So we'll be working from the north, working on our south on that area. So the local bridges are under construction right now. Those will be done in about 18 months, and we're envisioning right now with a plan for the Powers Boulevard extension to be complete by 2030. The next major activity we have going on in District 2 area is the Pikes Peak State College Mobility Hub, or the city's North Mobility Hub. So if you are interested in transit or other multimodal activities, there's not a lot in District 2 area, so we're working with Pikes Peak State College to put a transit facility in that area and link other first and last mile actions. So Pikes Peak State College has been a great partner. One of the things you're going to see here in the next couple of years as that develops, not only the station, but we'll be putting in a full intersection in where Interquest and Federal come into play, and we're doing that in conjunction with the university. I know this is on the south end of the district, but we're also doing some work on Woodman Road from Powers Boulevard to the east, all the way out to US 24 in conjunction with the county. That's just kicking off planning and early engineering studies right now, but the intent for there is to really do safety improvements and multimodal improvements really from Powers all the way out into the county connecting to US 24. So what does that mean? We have a lot of cyclists that use the road. There's really not a trail and very limited sidewalk. So there would be a trail system, sidewalk with some shoulders in better shape than what you have out there today. Now those intersections will be adding additional turn lanes or extending the length of the turn lanes so we can have safer traffic operations on that roadway. Old Ranch Road. You looked at, I grew up living in Pine Creek early on, in the early days of it, but the only way to get back there was Old Ranch Road. And if you can tell, it's still the same county road conditions as it was back in the early 90s and well before that. There's a lot of activities going on around Old Ranch Road today. We're currently doing engineering work there at Kettle Creek, so near Otero, if you're familiar with what that dip is, to widen that bridge. We're doing some bridge maintenance on it and widening it so we can get eventually 4 lanes through there, and also have the trail system on the north side of the road. And then we'll be coming back with a project to continue extending or widening Old Ranch Road from Kettle Creek all the way to the west of Voyager Parkway. If you drive Northgate, particularly Northgate from Struthers to I-25, it's in rough shape. We would say that. So there's been a series of projects with the city and the county and CDOT kind of all going on in that same area. The city did some work realigning the access point to the mining museum. And we've been holding off paving that mainline road until the county finishes the work they have on Struthers going on in that area. When the county's done with that work, our intent is to come and repave and restripe that and make that a lot better driving surface for you in that case. Talking about some other projects, so Voyager Parkway between Interquest and Northgate. We are actually, Colorado Springs Utilities is coming in, or actually I take that back. They're doing an assessment on the utilities in that road right now. They have some concerns about the condition of the water lines. We've been pushing the resurfacing on Voyager Parkway, and we'll continue to do so until we know for sure whether or not Colorado Springs Utilities is going to come in and do any utility projects in the road. But we are aware that it needs to be resurfaced. It is in the plan, just the timing of that action is we're just waiting on a couple of things. Ridgeline Drive between Voyager and Point House is currently planned to get some pre-overlay concrete work done in 27 and paving redone in 28. And I know there's still potholes on that road area, so we just encourage you to use those COS app and report things so we can get it patched until we can get a more permanent repair on that location. And then I wanted to say, you have heard a lot about 2C in the last few years. 2C is our roadway maintenance program. That's where we go through and do mill and resurface or repaving in that area. In District 2, over the next 10 years, we plan to hit 249 roads and a total of 185 lane miles. So there's a big effort planned in District 2, but I just wanted to give you that highlight. So that's just kind of an overview of some of the major activities going on from a capital perspective here in the next couple of years. And Todd and I will be sticking around to answer questions later on. So, turn it over to you again.
You want me to talk a little bit about what's going on with the All right. Hi, I'm Patrick David. I recently changed commands. I was in our professional standards division. I just recently went over to Stetson Hills. This is technically more your district, is more of the Falcon So if you have any specific questions after I go over my spiel, Crime Prevention Officer Brian Corrado and Lieutenant, who's acting commander for Falcon right now, Jason Ledbetter, can answer some questions after everything's done. But just a brief overview of some things that are happening during summertime. Two big things that everyone wants to know about are fireworks, and then with all the kids out, the e-bikes and the e-motors and what we're doing with those. I'm sure everyone's did. Anyone have problems with those in their neighborhoods? Maybe a few. Okay. So what we're doing with fireworks is we have some specific details that go out that are in the Ford. We have data from last year that were some complaints, so we'll start hitting those pretty early in the afternoon to try to encourage people not to light those fireworks, and we start lighting them off early to confiscate those fireworks and then make the proper citations if we have to with city ordinances. That's what we'll try to do. We also have several complaints that have come in with GoCOS. Once we look at those, we'll give those to the officers that are on those deployments and say, hey, let's go to these specific areas that we've gotten complaints in and see if we can educate, take fireworks if we see fireworks, charge appropriately if there's charges to be charged. So we will have some things out there on the 3rd and 4th specifically. All of our officers know that during this time it's zero tolerance. So if they give a fireworks complaint and they see fireworks, they're going to take the fireworks and they're going to write the tickets if it's appropriate and they've got probable cause to do so. On the e-motors, we've got our SROs right now focusing their summertime deployments on kind of tackling that problem. You'll probably see something on police water tomorrow. We just ended up towing a new motorcycle dirt bike for popping wheelies. We charged reckless endangerment and then obstruction. They did try to flee and we tried to stop them. We ended up contacting them later, so we ended up towing that for evidentiary purposes. But really, a lot of those bikes that you see around that look like dirt bikes, they're off-road vehicles. They're not allowed on the road. There's some charges that we'll be charging throughout, but potentially these kids could have their bikes towed, and it could be pretty expensive for parents to come get those out of tow, and then all the other charges they may have in city and state ordinances. So that's kind of how we're tackling those things during the summertime. I can tell you just the state of police department right now, where we're at. Our minimum staffing is 839. We're probably around, and this is a fluctuating target, but we're probably around 760, and about 30 of those 760 are actually in the academy right now, so they count towards our staffing, but they're not on the streets. We've probably got about 730 on the street, would be my guess. And again, don't quote me on that, but we're about there. We need to be about 830 now. So we've done a lot of things. City Council has been very supportive of getting some people on. One of those was a couple months ago. We got rid of our requirement for 60 credit hours. We have a big military town, and there's a lot of people that are in the military that don't have those 60 credit hours, but would be really good police officers. We're looking for those people that have that passion to do so. I will tell you that our recruiting since that time has gone up, so we've got better recruiting numbers for that. So we're hoping that that plays into being able to get more people into our academies and get more people out there for our community. In a nutshell, that's all I have, but we'll be sticking around for any other additional questions after this.
Appreciate it. Just to clarify, so there's District 2, City Council District 2, it has two police patrol districts. So basically Cordero, Wolf Ranch areas is Stetson Hills, and the remainder of District 2, basically north of Whitman, the remainder that's in the That's why we have basically split it into that. And with that, I'll turn it over to Scott Sherlock from Colorado Springs Utilities.
Great. Thank you. Ian Scott Sherlock with Colorado Springs Utilities. I am in the finance division at Utilities, so most of my comments will be related to kind of our financial operations and things impacting customers and the rates that you pay for your utility services. One thing outside of that scope that I really want to talk to you this evening is our water rights, our water wise rules that are in effect. As you are well aware, we're under pretty severe drought conditions, and we're coming out of a winter with really low snowpack, and we're expecting very low yield in terms of runoff into our storage reservoirs as well. So in response to that, we are under mandatory restrictions, and for what that looks like in Colorado Springs is that's following our water-wise rules. And following those rules really helps us stretch our water supplies, and luckily we are in really good shape in terms of our water storage. We do have about 2.9 years of water storage in our reservoirs, so we're in good shape coming into this dry season. But as I said, we did have a really low yield in terms of snowpack and water runoff, and as you can tell, so far this summer and this really irrigation season, we've been experiencing really dry and hot weather, which will increase our water consumption naturally. So really following those water-wise rules will help our community stretch our water supplies, and then we also encourage customers really to look for additional ways to reduce their usage by implementing other conservation practices. And for a full list of those and opportunities for rebates to help you with those, you can go to our website at csu.org. One other thing I wanted to point on, most of my other comments will be related to our electric service. And the first one is, now that we're in June, we've moved into our summer period for our energy-wise rates. The cost for utilities to either purchase, generate, and then deliver power really is different based on the time of the day. It really increases during our, what we call our peak period, which is the hours of 5 to 9. It's more expensive for us to deliver energy to our customers during that time frame. So as a result, we implemented our energy-wise rates, and instead of the flat rate the customers used to be on, which was a same flat rate regardless of when you used energy, we were able to lower that rate for 88% of the hours. So our off-peak rate for 88% of the hours is lower than that flat rate was. We did increase the rate to additional 12% of the hours, increasing that on-peak pricing when it really cost us more to deliver energy. Our peak season really is the summer season, as we're meeting heavy loads largely related to air conditioning and other conditioning type of loads. And so our summer on-peak rates are higher than our winter on-peak rates. And that's why you've probably seen some messaging around our summer period for our energy-wise rates that went into effect June 1st and last through September. But these energy-wise rates really do provide an opportunity for customers to respond to those, which will help us really defer or postpone additional investments in our system as we try to shift usage out of that on-peak 5 p.m. to 9 p.m. time frame to other time frames. Helps us to postpone, defer investments in our system, but also provides an opportunity to lower your bill by shifting energy to the times where it costs less. One other hot topic in the electric industry is really what we call large loads. Some of these can be data centers, some of them can be other things. And I know that around the country there's a lot of conversation about serving these large loads that can use a lot of power. And you hear stories around the country of where that's impacted other customers' rates. We saw those news stories too, and that's why we acted proactively with the help of City Council to establish a large load rate schedule that's applicable to customers that their load is 10 megawatts or greater. And that large load rate schedule is really in place to make sure that the customer covers all the costs related to providing them electric service, and that cost isn't shifted onto other types of customers. As Colorado Springs Utilities, we do not determine growth. We have an obligation to serve customers that do locate here, but we wanted to have that rate schedule put in place so that we could ensure that if a customer does locate here, that they pay the appropriate cost of us providing service to them. The last thing I really wanted to touch on is something we've been working on really for several years, and it's related to net metering service, which is applicable to customers that have their own rooftop solar systems. And our current rate structure is really misaligned with the full cost of providing service to net metering customers. And for that reason, we've really been evaluating different alternatives for alternative rate designs to propose to City Council. That process has really included a broad community engagement process with customer surveys, focus groups, lots of opportunities for customers to provide information to us. And we've really incorporated that into our proposal that's in draft form now, but we'll actually be filing it with City Council in the next week or so. And then that process will start, through the summer, through the City Council process. So with that, that's really all my prepared comments. But again, I'll be sticking around for questions.
Thank you. Okay, at this time, we'll go ahead and the scary part, we'll open it up to questions from all of you. To see what you have. Obviously, we don't have a microphone or a podium per se, so if you do want to raise your hand, I'll call on you, let you ask your question, and try to respond to your question. If I can't respond to your question, Lou Barr is going to take notes there. I also, if you're not able to ask your question on that time, I have business cards that are there. You can take a business card and email me, and then I'll get back to you if we don't have time to answer your thinking. Ma'am in the back, you go first. Yes.
Hi, my name's Elizabeth Gilbert. I'm Elizabeth Gilbert.
Okay.
I can stand.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, and I'll just read this. District 2 just went through a recall largely because residents felt unheard on development issues. One issue that inspired a lot of constituents to recall Tom Bailey is the proposed large-scale apartment complex at Voyager and Springcrest along the school fence at TCA. Based on his voting record, we didn't feel he would consider our serious concerns. My question is two-part. First, we want to avoid compromising your vote on this topic at the upcoming City Council meeting. Is there anything we need to avoid saying or asking tonight that will potentially compromise your vote, put it in jeopardy? And two, have you taken a look at Bailey's record, and if so, what do you see yourself doing differently to establish a better relationship with your constituents?
Well, the second part is events like tonight, so from that
Yeah.
perspective.
There were a lot of people that wanted to come, but we got last minute
I understand.
warning about it. So I'd love to know where we can all get that information, and then we can help get it out there.
Okay, as far as the Springcrest apartment development, okay, so that I think is what you're referring to. It's a quasi-judicial matter when it comes before City Council. You can write out a little explanation what that means here. So from the City Council perspective, if something is considered quasi-judicial, the City Council is acting in a court-like capacity. We're looking at the facts of the case, what the law says, and applying those laws. And the constraint is that we're only supposed to get our information in the hearing itself or from documents that are submitted as part of the application or part of an appeal or anything like that. So for that particular apartment thing, I can't speak to any of the details of it. I'm aware of it. It was on a working session last month, so I have read through it, but I understand. But for me to receive comment from you, or basically input from you, or just like you wouldn't want me to get an input from the developer, type of thing. So basically, we don't get any input. We don't evaluate or look at any input other than what comes to us in the hearing itself. And so I know there's a lot of public comment out there. A couple of people have said, hey, come to the hearing, come speak, submit comments through the normal process so they can be part of the public comment packet from that perspective. So from that perspective, that's what I would bring up from that. I was on the planning commission for 2 years. My record's out there as far as how I voted on different things. Again, I look at the facts of each case. I look at what the facts are. I look at what it says in this, what the criteria are there for approval. The criteria for the approval is designated very specific criteria for things like that, which has a zone change in the land use plan. Those are the very specific criteria. I apply those in a logical, fair way. I do listen to all public comment. In fact, the planning commission, if you go back and watch videos, you can watch me thank you people for coming and speaking, that type of thing. It's a very important part of the process, and I would encourage you, if you're already going to speak on that, when we have it before the City Council. I think it's our next meeting in July. Please do so. Yes, ma'am.
Yes, my name is Janine Slevins, and I have a question regarding the noise from the Ford Amphitheater. Okay, the mayor and the chief of police gave variance to the commercial area by the Ford Amphitheater.
Correct.
Okay, the sound comes up to the residential areas. Okay, so for the first concert, I recorded 70 decibels. That's 100 times what it should be based on state law. Called the police and they said, and I said, I'm here to make it quiet. Well, we can't do anything about the Ford Amphitheater. You're just going to have to go ahead and put go COS and file your complaint, which is useless. We've done it for 2 years and going on 3. Okay, my question is, Okay, maybe that variance is fine for the commercial area, but we in the residential area are under the state law, which was supported back in April of this year by the state Supreme Court. 50 decibels. Why does the Ford Amphitheater not get any kind of penalty? Why is this legal? I'd like to know this.
So it's legal, sorry. So I'm Brian Carter, I'm the crime prevention officer
Yeah.
for Falcon Division, and so I get a lot of the complaints that come in, the questions, the concerns, that kind of stuff. A lot of them come to city council as well for clarification, just that's one of the things that I do. As to every time that there's a concert, there is a variation of deviance that goes, that permit, that noise permit goes to that location. Like anywhere else, park, anything like that. That process is approved through the city. I'm just telling you, I have no
Yeah,
part of that process,
I
just
understand.
the courier, right?
Yeah.
What that process does is if they have a permit for that variance, whether it's permanent or temporary, then the police are not going to respond to that issue if there's a permit in place. We're operating under the city's rules for that, right, not the state's rules for that. So that's I don't have a great answer for you, I know what we're going to enforce, and we're not going to enforce when it has a permit. Does that make sense?
I understand
Okay.
your position.
Sure.
But why on earth is the amphitheater allowed to blast people miles away with no repercussions? Also, Roth said on October 5th, 2024, at his meeting at the amphitheater of people who were impacted, he said, for the 2025 season, you'll have to buy a ticket to hear the concert. Gee, I can still hear it, as I'm sure a whole bunch of other people can. I would like to know what exactly has he spent his millions on in his attempt to mitigate the sound. Was it his very expensive steak and lobster restaurant, which is on the east side? What exactly did he spend his money on? Because it sure as hell isn't effective. If he thinks that just sound walls will do it, they're effective only to hundreds of feet. Again, people are affected miles away.
Yeah, if I could, I live 2 miles east of there. I hear and I understand the issues and I'm concerned with it. I did a ride along with the Falcon Division Police Department. We came through it at 9 o'clock at night to hear the concert. Parked in the Northgate Islands for a while to see how that was.
Did you enjoy it?
I did not enjoy it. It was loud and talked to residents that were there. But again, from our perspective, the enforcement, the permitting, the enforcement is all in the mayor's office. And I don't know if I want to put Wayne Williams on the spot, but the chief of staff for the mayor has joined us there.
Sure, I'd like to
Wayne, I don't know if
I'd
you want
like
to
to
speak
get
to
my
that at all
questions answered.
or not.
I just walked in, so.
Sorry.
Your address, we have a, welcome to send them to me, it's Wayne Williams at Colorado Springs.
Will I get answers? Do you know how many times I have contacted the mayor's office?
One at a time.
Okay.
No, I do not.
Okay, so, I'm sorry, you were next. So-
Thank you. Matt Grubasich, I've been here for 30 years. I live in El Paso County. I was one of the original 8 that fought this from the beginning. And I wouldn't believe Wayne could give a positive answer because he was part of the process that approved it.
Right.
I remember him till 2 in the morning smirking and doing whatever else he does in front of the residents. But we asked a lot of questions and we were told that if it got out of hand, we could call the police and they would turn it down. And now it's been manipulated to this point. And it's very unfortunate. We got more representation out of a bipartisan group at the state legislature when we fought that phony Senate Bill 098 than we're getting out of the city council and the city.
Amen.
In regards to this problem. And it's a big one. And none of us should be dealing with this. It should have faced, the stage should have faced west. I took my family to the PBR concert at the Air Force Academy. There were no issues because they faced the stage west. This was all done on a false narrative from the beginning. There is no sound mitigation. No one's doing a damn thing about it, and we're going on 3 years now. So somebody needs to step up to the plate and fix this, because it was done wrong from the beginning.
Yes.
And I don't know what more to say, but I can't barbecue with my grandkids on my patio in Sun Hills. We've been there 30 years, because I'm hearing F-bombs and everything else. So I don't know what you're going to do about this. Does Roth run the city and Wayne? Who runs the city? Obvious, no one's listening to us, and that's a tragedy. And this is getting scrutiny across the country. There's a reason why Yukon, Oklahoma said no bueno, we're not putting it in. And that's the reason why Oklahoma City said, no, we're not doing this. And now he's got 2 holes in the ground because it doesn't work. So somebody needs to do something here, because this is ridiculous.
Yeah, I've spoken to the mayor about it on 2 occasions, and about some comments and changes I think we could do. You know, one would be turn down the music, and the second one, yeah, that's obvious one, obviously. The second one was, you know, could we reduce the hours on school nights or work nights type of thing as well. I mean, right now, 10 o'clock is fairly late.
Well, you can't listen to...
10:30.
What's that?
It's 10:30.
People can't put their kids to bed. I mean, this is ridiculous.
I mean, I hear from my house as well, so I understand the issue, and I'll continue to work with the mayor's office to see what they can do. Again,
Well, I don't know if
it's in their ballpark now to be able to you know, change the permitting or change the enforcement.
A lot of hornets' nests are being stirred up in the city because of a data center, the Coca-Cola plant, the Buc-ee's going in. People have had it.
Yeah, pretty much.
And I'm serious. This is getting to a tipping point. Thank you for having this, sir. It's wonderful.
Appreciate it. Thank you for the feedback. Yes, ma'am. You're next.
Hi, my name is Mary Burning. I always get emotional when I talk about this. I want to thank you very much for hosting this. It's very brave. I've been trying to get the state representative from our district to have a town hall for as long as he's been in office. So I really appreciate the opportunity and all you wonderful public servants. But I want to say, this is the 3rd year that we are into the Ford Amphitheater noise. I filed a complaint on Saturday night at 9 o'clock. I got the response today. I'm going to face Mr. Williams too. The mayor, why he continues to allow a business exemptions at the cost and the cost of the mental health, the physical health of the citizens. I don't get it. My response that I got from the complaint I filed was, they are asking for my, quote, patience and grace while they solve this issue and continue mitigating. What has happened around the Ford Amphitheater is absolutely egregious and, in my opinion, immoral. And I think that something, you know, the buck is just passed from one entity to another, from city council to the mayor to Roth. There's no transparency about what's being done. And in the meantime, people are suffering, and I use that word purposefully when I describe this. People are awake, their health problems are exacerbated, their children are suffering, and it's like business as usual with no consequence, apparently. So I went to the mayor's listening meeting. It was at TCA, I believe it was December, maybe a year and a half ago. He listened to person after person after person describe real trauma that they had been victim of, you know, because of the noise. He had the, I'm going to say gall at the end of that to say, I know how you feel. I have a child that's trauma-informed also. And I'm like, well, I don't get it. And yet you continue to give Roth a blank check, basically. $500 fine for an infraction. Thank you again for the opportunity. And I agree, something has to happen. People are really getting tired.
I'll continue to press the issue with the mayor, you know, for enforcement. What's that? I'm sorry. Yes, sir.
First, thank you for pulling this together. We really appreciate it. Thank you to our public servants. It's very important to us. My name is Chris Kane. We're severely impacted by the Ford Amphitheater and represent hundreds of neighbors on the north side. If you look at the amphitheater, there's not even complete walls on the north side. And we all live at 300 feet in elevation above the amphitheater. There's nothing between that and our homes to stop the noise. On a concert last year, in my home, with the windows closed and the doors closed, my children heard F the police, F other things during a concert from the PA system. This is inside our home. This is unacceptable. My wife is an elementary school teacher. This impacts her job. She has to be up very early in the morning. It affects the kids she teaches. And one of my children, we've had to move into basement due to anxiety and depression, and this exacerbates it. We've been in our home for 25 years. So when we hear that our leadership gives a noise hardship permit, or other city council members pass the buck saying it's out of our hands now, that isn't true. You guys are our leaders. You can do something to affect change for our community, and that's why you're here, and that's why we need you. And we respect that enormously. We have most of city council and the mayor that are more tied to special interests and the benefits that they receive personally, such as the mayor getting to use Roth's Amphitheater for fundraising events. The list goes on and on. Employees of venue related to city council members. So there's an ethical issue here that the public is fed up with. We are now holding them accountable. We've stopped a bill this spring up in Denver that was pushed by Ford to remove any noise limits with the Noise Abatement Act. We've recalled the councilman that didn't listen to constituents. We have a legal action in progress, and the opposition is doing everything to undermine that so that we don't have our day in court even. And it's costing the community personally hundreds of thousands of dollars to do this. So my question is, what are you going to do? And we're going to put you on the spot because leaders should deserve to be to be accountable. What are you going to do specifically to help this community with this problem that's now going on 3 seasons with no change?
So you mentioned earlier the city council should be doing something. Was there something particular that you're looking at in terms of legislation or ordinance change, or what were you speaking for that?
You can override, our understanding is, you can override actions from the mayor, that there's processes in place to remove the hardship permit. And again, the people aren't asking for anything except abide by the legal Noise Abatement Act levels at the state level. We're not saying shut down, don't have concerts, just abide by the state law. And our mayor is overriding that for now.
Okay, I'm not sure. I'll have to look into whether we can override that or not. My understanding is that we cannot, and that's why I've been kind of pushing things over and asking the mayor's office to respond to things. I will look into what, if there are any actions that city council can take, either override or whatever, adjust the permit process as well. I don't want to complain that I've only been in office for 90 days, but I know it's an issue, and I will look into it more. I promise you that. I had some people send me some information about changes.
When and how would we see the response of you following through for this for us?
If you want to take a card and email me, then I can send your response back to you once I look into it some more and get some more details about what action can be done.
Thank you for your
And
time.
I have had numerous emails as well already that were responded to. I can, once I research a little bit more, I can get back to you with additional information.
Thank you.
Okay?
Yes.
Yes, sir. Yep.
Hi, my name is Russell Ellsbury. Since the August of last year, when the city council was considering a 23% increase in the utilities budget, I looked into it energy-wise. Utilities has a main coal-fired one and 6 and natural gas ones. Those natural gas ones can be turned on almost immediately. So as your utility usage goes up and down, you can immediately adjust to that. So whenever the financial officer over there says, that costs more, the natural gas cost is the same in the morning as every peak hours. So there is really, it's penalizing working people to have this energy-wise thing. If they're using electricity in the peak hours, everybody should be paying the same price, not a higher price. They get the solar powered units, that's like free energy for them. And they need, those customers with solar power should be compensated without any penalty in peak hours. So that's my first point. Second point is that the so-called environmental, electric resource source is still using the 2020 version of that. Even in the last publication this a week ago, they're still citing that 2020 electric plan. In 2025, the United Nations climate change program wiped out the mandate for getting rid of all coal-fired plants. What's in the budget for 2025 and also 2026? They've been collecting the money for a Horizon plant, Horizon plant somewhere out by the airport. That is only going to be necessary if they close the Nixon coal power plant. There is no mandate globally. The Trump administration has removed Biden's mandate for getting rid of coal-fired power plants, and so there is no reason to close the Nixon coal-fired plant and collect this money to build the Horizon plant. So I think, first of all, I ask you as a city council member and therefore a board member, a utility board member, don't penalize anybody who's working and has to come home, fix food, run air conditioning, etc. So, and as you begin to look for the 2027 budget, start by eliminating all the things having to do with the Horizon plan.
Okay, thanks, Scott. I'll get to you then. Okay. So there's a lot of different topics in there. We had energy-wise rates, evening rates, we had net metering. As far as the coal plant goes, there's a state mandate to close the plant. It was supposed to close in 2029, and it was just extended by legislation to just passed for 2032. So while there may not be mandates from others, the mandate certainly still within our state. So that was extended 3 years. The Horizon plant, which you're talking about, is a natural gas plant, one that's actually not going to build it by the airport now. They're building it to a southern location. Not sure the exact spot. I know it's across from Dixon plant. It's going to be moved to the south because there was a problem with the Horizon plant. The plume that comes from the burning of the natural gas was going to interfere apparently with some of the airport stuff. They didn't find it out until rather late in the game. So that plant is still, it's not going to be called the Horizon plant. There's a different name for it. It'll be to the south. Dixon plant is extended 3 years. And for net metering and, what do you call that? Net metering and the energy-wise rates, if you could address those two.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, great comments, and 100% accurate that the cost of natural gas, we buy that. We have a purchase strategy where we're buying gas at different intervals, but gas for a daily price of gas is set the day before, and we can purchase the gas at that price. And we do have a different portfolio of generation resources. You mentioned the Nixon plant is a coal plant. We have current natural gas plants. We have the Front Range Power Plant. We have the 6 generators that are downtown that took the place of the Drake coal plant. I want to just address your comment by trying not to get too technical, but talk about something that's called economic dispatch theory. And it's really how Colorado Springs utilities and really all utilities that have a generation part of their system keep prices as low for customers as possible. And to do that, what that means is we stack our resources and dispatch those in the most economical fashion. So for example, we want to run our lowest cost units first and the most. So for example, if we can run, if the Nixon coal plant is our cheapest resource, we're going to run it as much as we can, and we're going to run it first before we run other resources. So you can kind of factor in your base load being run off of coal for the most part. And then as your load increases through the day, you want to start generating resources in the next economic, the lowest cost resource. So the next lowest cost for us might be starting the Front Range gas plant. But it may cost more to run than the Nixon plant. So the cost is increasing as our load increases because we're starting up resources that cost incrementally more than the resource that we're currently running, because we're running the lowest cost resources first and the most. So as we move into our peak times of the day, we're starting, not only the Nixon plant, but then the Front Range plant, the plants downtown. We might be firing up other kind of peak plants that we have, and we might be purchasing from the market additional energy to make sure that we're meeting our needs. So that is why, because of as load increases through the day, we're firing up additional generation resources to meet that load. And because of that, that's a big driver of what causes on-peak prices to be more expensive than the off-peak price. During the middle of the night when our load is very low, the only thing we need to run is our lowest cost generation resource. But as the load becomes higher in the afternoon hours, we're running all of our generation resources, and at times we may be purchasing from the market. We do have the opportunity to buy from the market whenever it is a lower cost than generating one of our own units. And so we always are optimizing, forecasting a month ahead, a day ahead, and then in real time, what is the most economic manner to meet our electric load? And that is how we try to keep rates as low as possible, but it also is why our on-peak rates are higher than our off-peak rates.
Do customers have the option to select a flat rate versus a?
Yeah, great. I'm glad you brought that up. So we do have, with EnergyWise, for residential customers, there's really 3 rate options that customers can select. The first one is the standard EnergyWise option that has the off-peak price for 88% of the hours, and then it has the on-peak price from 5 to 9, and the summer and winter kind of differences. One other option is kind of what we call EnergyWise Plus, so it gets a little more complicated. It adds a super off-peak period to those time periods, so there's not only an off-peak and an on-peak, but there's a super off-peak where the cost of our energy is the lowest, and that's during the hours of 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. And a big part of why that energy is lowest during that time of the day is because of renewable solar generation resources that are producing during that middle part of the day. We also do have a flat rate option that we call our fixed seasonal rate option for customers that don't want to worry or be stressed about the on and off peak periods. We do have a fixed seasonal option that has a flat rate for the summer price and a flat rate for the winter price, with the winter rate being lower than the summer price. So that, is an option for
And how do Colorado Springs utility rates stack up for our ratepayers compared to the Front Range?
Yeah, I'm going to go a little bit from memory here, but I believe so along the Front Range, so we measure quarterly our rate competitiveness with other utility providers along the Front Range. And overall, across all four services, so electric, natural gas, water, and wastewater, we're about 5% lower than the other municipalities along the Front Range. Our electric service is a little bit lower than that. I want to say around 7-8% lower than the Front Range average on the electric service.
I thought our water was a little more.
It might be, Alex,
I didn't hear that.
How much lower is electric, do you remember, along the Front Range? Maybe 9%?
I thought it was 11%.
11%, yeah. I know natural gas is 14% lower. I think, yeah.
And what's water? Water's higher here,
Water's 15%.
but on average, or across all four utilities.
Across all four, we're about 5% lower.
Yes, sir.
So in lieu of the pricing plan for the residents, you know, they're planning on putting a data center right off the Garden of the Gods location, in that big building between the federal building and the college. I mean, even the smallest data center takes up as much power as about 1,000 houses, if not 800. So when that thing gets built, it's going to spike the energy use immediately. And they're not going to have any variable usage of power. It's just going to keep on going up and up and up. How is the Colorado Springs utility even going to compensate for that enormous drain when that thing is built, as opposed to the ones that are trying to build other places?
Yeah, so one aspect that we built into our large load rate schedule that I mentioned that was specifically designed for these types of concerns. We saw this issue coming really a couple of years ago, and we worked with City Council to establish a rate that's specific for these large types of customers. One component in that rate option, or that rate for those customers, is they pay exactly the cost of the energy that they use. We may go out and purchase a specific purchase power for them and pass that cost directly on to them so that it's not impacting the rest of our customers, but we can really identify, because they sign a 10-year contract with them so that, and really they're responsible for all of the cost of providing them energy, both infrastructure and the energy, so they pay exactly the cost of the energy that they're using through long-term contracts.
And I apologize to attend them. Are they going to also have a permit for the 50 and 60 decibels of noise that comes out of those buildings for the surrounding locations too?
Yeah, that's not a Colorado Springs utilities question. It's not.
There's an appeal on that particular project. It's a quasi-judicial one, so I can't respond to that one today.
Understood.
But the city planning department, handles that as I'm the city department. Prejudice myself. Yes, sir.
Yeah, I'm Steve Klaus with the Briargate. First of all, comments and a couple questions. For the police department, I'm very happy that you guys are making the changes. You need to be at full strength. As the population of the city grows, the number of crazies increases the same level, and we really need you guys to be at full strength, so I'm glad to hear that. Public Works. My wife and I both grew up here, went to Palmer High School, and then moved away, worked for the federal government in Washington for like 30 years, and then retired and came back here. On the roads, the roads were terrible when we got here. A lot worse than when we were growing up. And my understanding was that for years while we were gone, there were referendums to provide additional funding for roads, and they were turned down, and the roads turned crap. And now you guys are faced with a backlog of having, now that you got new funding, people finally got sick of the roads being the way they were, and provided new funding. And I've seen a lot of improvements in the roads around here. You guys are making good progress. That said, do you still have a backlog that you're working off of? And at what point do you think that backlog, to the point where you're just maintaining and maybe doing new development as opposed to playing catch-up?
Go ahead and answer that. So you're very well informed about what happened. Let me give you a little history on the road maintenance. We used to have a 0.5-cent sales tax for maintenance. And it was everything related to transportation, and it actually had some other city services as well. When TABLE went in place, and I believe it was between 90 and 92, there was really a transition where that went away. And so we really had deferred maintenance from 1990 till 2005. In 2005 is the first year that we had the Pike Creek Rural Transportation Authority, or PPRTA, where we had essentially 0.35 cents that went towards maintenance for all transportation-related elements, whether it's your roadway, bridges, traffic signals, and all those things that support the transportation network. But we were so far behind, if you're looking just, let's say, the 15-year deficit, that really all we were doing with that 35% was reactionary. And then in 2017, that was backwards, 2019, when we had the 2C roadway maintenance sales tax that started off at 0.62%, and then it dropped to 0.57. In fact, it was renewed by voters again last year and just started another 10-year cycle. That is focused purely on roadway maintenance. So we have a dedicated resource to go through and do this. I actually have a whole presentation on this. You would love it. Anyway, so we have a funding source, but the reality is it's going to continue to be cyclic, right? When we go look at the base when 2C went in place, I can't remember the exact numbers of it, but we had such a deficit to get caught up. We've been doing our best to be able to get to a point where we're actually in a spot to do preventive maintenance. And it took us those first 10 years of that tax to stop the locomotive deterioration on our roadway system. So now we've got a blend where we're going and maintaining, rotating around and taking care of our arterials. And it actually has given us an opportunity to go back into our neighborhoods. If you go back and look at the history of the growth of Colorado Springs, it's been around for obviously over 150 years, but really we had huge growth starting in the 80s and 90s, and we're just now being able to go and address the residential roads. So it's going to end up having to be perpetual in a lot of ways to be able to keep up with it. What we don't want to do is to get in a deferred maintenance standpoint as well, because if you go and look how roads deteriorate, you're going to have to come back and touch them in 7 to 20 years depending on the use. Does that make sense? A lot of technical stuff in there as well.
I have one more.
No, real quick, I'm on the Pikes Peak Regional Transportation Authority Board, is one of my many boards that I'm on, and Gail is there every month, advocating for Colorado Springs and presenting the full value of projects. So that's off there.
The last thing is, and this is just a general comment, there's a perception, and I was involved with the Pine Creek Apartments fight that was going on. There's a perception, at least in the community that I'm aware of, that there isn't a development project, especially apartments, that the city council doesn't approve. Okay, and that might be true, but it sure looks that way. And I understand that the planning commission, their role is to look at development projects and go, are they meeting all the requirements? They don't make the final decision. The city council's job, at least as I understand it, is to look in totality at the impact of the apartments in different parts of the city and growth, and say, this doesn't make any sense to me. And I don't know what the percentage is, but it looks like city council just rubber stamps every development project that comes their way and says no. And I can understand, if it was like, okay, 67% get approved and 30% disapprove. But when you get that many approved all the time, it just doesn't look good. It doesn't look good at all. The other thing is on development and water. And you can address this, okay? No crap, we've got a drought, and this is not going to be better. This is not going to get any better. The water tables are going down, and we're not going to have enough water. And it's not just Colorado Springs, it's the whole Front Range, it's Phoenix, it's all these places just keep building and building, and there's no water. We've got the Colorado Compact that the federal government's going to have to get in, going to take water away probably from us and give it to California or somebody else that's coming out of the Colorado River. So I don't know that you guys can do anything about it, but it's like it's a disaster on the way, and we're doing the best to mitigate. I mean, I know we put in rocks and got rid of grass, and a lot of these things we need to do. Stop using a lot of water, put in desert type of plants and stuff. But you put in a Coca-Cola plant or you put in something else, it's like that just sucks up water that we aren't going to have in the future. It just seems to a lot of people like this is just the city council members or whoever's approving these projects, or just looking at short term, am I going to get, is this going to benefit me, okay? And 20 years down the road, to hell with it. And I'm just kind of frustrated at the fact that not only Colorado Springs, but the whole area just doesn't seem to get it. They don't seem to get this whole water situation that we're going in. I mean, the utility company knows that too.
So I'll address the apartment thing, and I'll let Scott, if you don't mind, addressing the water part, and then I'll address the apartment thing afterwards.
Yeah, can we start?
Yep.
Okay.
How do we evaluate, I think we're asking, how do we evaluate new development? Do we have enough water for new development?
Sure, and I'm really not the right person to address the water planning aspect of it. So I'm going to go to what I know, and that's the financial aspect of it. So back in 2021, we did implement a new charge for new connections to our system called the water resource fee. So I know that our planning group is always looking forward at what water projects, what water acquisitions are going to help Colorado Springs Utility meet its projected water needs as our community continues to grow. And again, it's not Colorado Springs Utility's role to determine what customers arrive, it's just to serve those that do arrive. But we're anticipating additional growth all the time, and our water planning team is estimating and planning projects to meet that growth. We implemented a new fee called the water resource fee that really to fund in advance those new water right acquisitions and new water projects such as dam expansions and those types of things that can capture more of our existing water rights so that we have those in water storage, but also purchasing new water rights to meet the growth. And so those fees are collected at the time of new connection. So at the time of a new building permit, those fees are assessed to the person that's connecting to the water system. So that's one way that Colorado Springs Utilities is ensuring that growth pays for growth. That doesn't fix the scarcity of the water, but it helps us from a cost recovery perspective to make sure that growth is paying for growth and that the rest of our customer base isn't supporting that growth through higher water rates.
I had a developer complain about the high connection, so you're doing something right there.
And finally, thank you for having this. This is very
Sure.
very good.
No, so I can't speak to past decisions of the city council. I will tell you what I did on planning commission and city council, what I'll be doing at city council. So you have basically your apartment complex or whatever comes through. You have criteria to look at. Now, in a lot of cases, if it's already zoned, that's something a lot of people understand. If a parcel of land is zoned for a particular use, and it's zoned, let's call it mixed-use medium, it's already authorized, which means in the Unified Development Code, there's a table that says things that can be built on it, etc. So let's say it says apartment complex. So that apartment complex will go through an administrative approval. It'll never go to planning commission, it'll never go to city council unless it's appealed. And you see that in some other projects around the city that I won't talk about. But so sometimes projects don't necessarily come to planning commission. If they already meet zoning criteria, they call a use by right, that they can be built there, whether it's a gas station or yet another car wash or whatever else. If it's zoned for that use, it can be used for that. Now, things that come to planning commission and or city council are usually things that are outside of it. They need special permissions. It's a zone change. There's some conditional use required or some other caveat. Those things then go to planning commission. As far as evaluating, normally that particular apartment complex is evaluated, or whatever it is evaluated against a criteria, but it's supposed to be evaluated against Plan COS. Plan COS is the city's comprehensive plan. You may not realize we have one. It's been in effect, I think, since 2019. It's due for a redo now, and that goes in there. That covers a broad spectrum of where's development should happen in the city. What are the traits that we're looking at in terms of that? So that's where you see in terms of that. And one of the concepts that are in there is we want people to work and live in the same place. So we want a mixture of housing in different areas. A lot of times, I know my own neighborhood, you have a lot of single-family homes that don't necessarily want an apartment complex or whatever near them because they think that the value is their homes or whatever. But the city's comprehensive plan, if you look at millions, not millions, but a lot of people work to develop it, to come to some idea about what the city overall wants. It covers in there. They want to have apartment complexes in different areas. I hear all the time we have too many apartments, but then you see studies come out about housing that say we don't have enough housing. Usually we're talking, it's a mismatch of housing. We have large single-family homes, we need kind of a missing middle. Apartments, I just looked the other day, apartment occupancy right now is just slightly high. The occupancy is slightly lower than it would consider optimal. And so you still see people planning for the future and still wanting to build apartment complexes and that sort of thing. And so that's the analysis that's done. It's a specific project and specific criteria, but then also look at Plan COS, the city's comprehensive plan, to see does it make sense, is it consistent with that? And developers, when they make their case, before the planning commission, they'll lay out exactly that. Here's the criteria, here's how we meet it, here's Plan COS, here's how we meet it. So if you ever are going to speak in public comment about a particular project, knowing what's in Plan COS and the city's comprehensive plan, it's online, as well as knowing what the criteria are in the Unified Development Code. Those are the things that you should be able to speak to. Did I answer your question? Okay, you and then you.
I just want to say thank you so much for taking the time and listening to us, especially those of us who live in the county. We don't really have representation for this part of town, even though we love it, play in it, and shop in it, and just enjoy everything you do here. And thank you for all the work you do on public works and the efforts you're putting in to keep noise levels down in between certain hours. I greatly appreciate that. And for Colorado Springs Utilities, thank you for putting in higher rates for those who consume more energy and water, because out in the county we are on a well, and so we have the same concerns that big Coca-Cola plants or Buc-ee's or data centers go in and then they drain the Dawson Aquifer and then we don't have water. So I don't know what you all can do to give a great explanation on what you can do as a city council member, but I just want to say thank you for all you're doing and looking out for those of us who might not have representation right here. So thank you.
Appreciate it. I live maybe 2/10 of a mile from the county line, so
Thank you very much.
I'm very familiar with El Paso County. Stanley.
Yeah, my name is Amy Watkins, and I actually went to the planning committee for the apartment complex they want to build on Voyager and Springcrest, which actually is a 55-mile-an-hour zone, first of all, with a very short distance between Briargate and Springcrest. So it's actually waiting to happen, first of all, if they go ahead with it. But without getting into too much detail, because I don't want to compromise your position, I guess what it boils down to, I think for a lot of people here, is that we're putting corporate profits above people. And when I say that, I mean it's the noise that these people are suffering with. You've heard it yourself, as you said. You also live in a community, you said, where you have single-family homes. That's where I live, but you want to put another 500 cars on the corner. I mean, it just doesn't make any sense. And so I think a lot of us are tired of corporate profits being put above the people and the citizens. So we just want you to bat for us, because the City Planning Commission didn't even listen to any of us, and there was a boatload of us at the meeting. So that's just, I just really want you to hear what we're saying when we show up at the next meeting, which you'll be at.
I mentioned it's a quasi-judicial thing, I can't speak about it, but I encourage you to come and during the public comment period and offer your public comment on that. Yes, sir.
Yeah, hey, this might have tied in a little bit more at the beginning with the Ford Amphitheater noise, but you've got a community here who's been suffering for 3 years, and then you got a mayor who just completely ignores the community and gives waiver after waiver after waiver. The mayor's staff seem to completely not care about the community. Why? This might be rhetorical for you, but I'm wondering, why does the mayor just blanket endorse these shenanigans over and over and over again? Is there anyone on the city who says, hey, these people are suffering, maybe we should do something different? It's been 3 years. And it sounds like it's going to keep going on forever. And that's why there's a legal process in play now, which I've personally contributed quite a lot of money to. And I know others have contributed a lot more than I have. But what is going on with the mayor? He seems to completely say, I don't care. I want to know, what kind of conversation has the city council, you had with the mayor? And why does he keep doing this? Really?
I have had conversations with the mayor on the topic. I can't speak to why he does it. I don't know if Wayne wants to address that or not. But I will just say that, I think, I'm not going to speak for the mayor, but I think the Ford Amphitheater and other parts of the city is enormously popular. There's a Facebook group that has like 34,000 people on it for Ford Amphitheater, buying and selling tickets and stuff like that. So I think I understand what I've told the mayor is that the people it impacts tremendously. But everybody else who's outside the noise range, to them it's just a great concert venue that you can enjoy, whatever, sit outside kind of thing. So I think there's some tension there. Again, I'm not going to speak for the mayor how he adjudicates that tension there, but I know it's considered an economic engine for the area and things like that, and that's, I think, plays into, I mean, that's not my perspective, but that is why you face the headwinds that you have faced in trying to get, I think, as far as you're trying to get anything else taken care of.
You can have concerts, breakfast, lunch, and dinner 7 days a week. The community wouldn't really care, as long as he complies with the noise ordinances. And I got a copy of the noise ordinance like an hour before this meeting. It's not posted out there for the public. But when I read it, there is no enforcement. All it says is you can elevate the noise, and if you exceed the new noise limits, there may be consequences. There is no enforcement. He can blast the music as loud as he wants, including the mayor, is not gonna do anything, and the chief of staff is not gonna do anything at all. You know, these people, me, I'm suffering. I hear that noise in my house, thumping and bumping. I put headphones on. I do everything I can to try to drown it out, which is ridiculous. You know, we've all voiced our concerns. And then there's the other party. There's J.W. Roth, there's Robert Mudd, there's the venue staff who mock us. Literally mock us directly to us. I know he sent me private messages calling me the most vulgarest things. I'm not going to repeat in front of the kids. The most vulgar things. And I have not deleted those messages. So if he wants to drag me to court, I'll show those messages to the judge. But clearly he's not, the mayor and the mayor's staff is not representing this community. And we are looking. You said, you know, so one of the previous residents brought up that said, why don't you override the noise waiver, which I think would be a very logical thing. And if he did, maybe J.W. Roth would tone down the sound a little bit. You know, Fiddler's Green had this exact same problem. They toned it down, and now they get a $10,000 fine if they fix the sound. And it works. And they hold concerts, and there's almost no noise complaints. And you know what? Ford Amphitheater, let them hold concerts all day long, provided there's no noise complaints. The city should put a real fine on them, and then this problem would go away. JW would have all the concerts he wants. He can make all the money he wants. The city can get all the economic development they want, all the tax base, and the residents can live in some peace. But there's no enforcement. Zero. JW was denied in two other cities, and now if you look at all of his new amphitheaters, he puts a roof on it. A roof on it. And you could do the same thing here, but the city's going to let him get away with his shenanigans. So, I personally have contributed to legal funds, and I've decided I'm going to contribute pretty significantly to the next round of elections. And I encourage the citizens you know, JW's got an ego larger than the state of Colorado. He's not going to do it. It is going to require the city to force it. And if you can override the noise waiver, great. But let's say you can't. You can certainly say, Mr. Mayor, you want your annual budget approved? No noise exemption this year. There's other So, 3 years, and I guarantee you, if JW gets his way, it's going to be 30 more years. We're asking for the city to change what they're doing. And it probably starts with you, honestly. Thank you for bringing this here. I don't know where you stand on this, and we're kind of waiting to see. But we know where you and the mayor stand. And we're asking for it to stop. Seriously. There's no money in it for us. You know, we don't want to move. Some people have been forced to move out of their houses. This has brought real consternation to people.
Yeah, what I said earlier, as far as where I stand is, I think the two things I'm advocating for, turn down the sound and limit the hours on, particularly on school. So, thank you for your feedback. Yes, sir.
I just wanted to add on to what Terrence said. So my name is Murray Ralph. I have to move because of the theater. I just wanted to say one thing about what you said about that there's thousands of people that like the theater. It's totally irrelevant. I could care less if there's 1 million people that love the theater. That's what the law is designed to protect the minority. If you have a couple hundred families and the law's being broken, then the government, police should protect the minority. It's just that simple. So it's totally irrelevant to me if some, mother who wants to shove her kids to a concert one night so she can do something, so other people have to suffer. That's unacceptable. And kind of my experience, if people want to do something, they do it. If you want to send your kids to college, you send your kids to college. If you want to take a trip, you take a trip. The city wanted to fix this they would have fixed it already. Been 3 years, they would have fixed it. The fact of the matter is, the city doesn't want to fix this. They're pandering to this $2 a share company. Okay, that's basically selling everything they can to generate cash to try to keep eking along. To have 14 events a year, and you say it's making all this money with 14 events a year with hourly paid workers, like at Disney World, just working a few shifts, that's an economic engine. So, you know, I think it's really sad that we've had to spend our money to go sue. I think that's a really sad statement for the city. And I had a question for the officer. So, permits. When you guys issued your permit, it's in black and white, it was in the Gazette, that the permit was valid for Polaris Point Complex. And it said outside the Polaris Point Complex, state and municipal laws were enforced. It's in black and white. The city issued it. But what I'm hearing from the policeman is, well, it's a permitted event, therefore outside the permitted zone, we're still not going to do anything. And I don't understand that. Because it's in black and white, the city released that the permit was only to Polaris Point Complex, outside Polaris Point, being north of North Gate. State and municipal laws were intact. And we are told they are not intact. So since we have an enforcement official here, I'm just curious if they can explain that.
So I'll try to say that again in a little different way. We, the police, when we get complaints, whether it's a noise complaint, those go to dispatch, right? And so on the one hand, that is triage according to a priority list, right? How important is that call? Believe me, I don't live far from what we're talking about either, so I'm measuring my words a little bit. But when those complaints come in, you're not going to get an officer to respond to that complaint right away, depending on where that lies in the priority. So the homicide is going to take priority over any noise complaint. Fair? Right? And that's common sense. So when we talk about responding to a complaint, a noise complaint especially, one of the problems that we have as officers to respond to a complaint is to measure whether there's a probable cause to enforce that part, whether it's a city ordinance or whether it's a state law, right, a state statute, excuse me. So for us to respond to every house that's complaining on a given night is never going to happen. We don't have the resources for that. We never will, right? Fair? So we have to respond to a complaint, if we can, when it's happening. How does an officer, a line level officer, respond to a noise complaint by the time he gets there at 2 o'clock in the morning, if they respond to that complaint at 2 o'clock in the morning, to a noise complaint that they no longer can hear? Make sense? We're not equipped with audio, those things that measure noise. We're not equipped with those things, right? We don't have them. So it's hard, well.
There's an app on your phone that the judge said she'd take into consideration.
Well, but we don't operate by those standards. We, just like a radar gun, I need a radar gun to determine someone's speed. The department isn't issuing audio meters,
Well, if you hear a neighbor blasting a stereo next door, you don't need that, right? Right? That's disturbing the peace.
But again, we're getting there when it's happening, not 2 or 3, 4 hours.
Concerts are 6 hours long.
I'm telling you, remember the priority list, right? And we don't have enough officers. I've worked there for 20 years in this department, and 10 of them have been in this division. And I will say that there was a time, just being honest with you, when we had officers that were available to respond to those kinds of noise complaints while they were happening. And I issued tickets for those complaints. In the 20 years that I've been here, the population of Colorado Springs has grown 35%. The department's grown 17%. We'll do the math. Fair? So we're not responding to those same kinds of complaints in the promptness that we would have 20 years ago. So again, for us to respond to your home, and I'm not defending this at all, please don't get me, don't mistake what I'm saying. For us to respond to something 6 hours after the fact, or even 2 hours after the fact, we don't have the probable cause to issue a ticket then, because it's already gone. It's like a speeder. If I don't catch the speeder, I'm not issuing a ticket. Same process. The reasonable suspicion to respond is there, the probable cause issue citation is not. Even if we could, but if there's a variation that's been granted, then we're not going to write a ticket for somebody. It's like a park. If we go to a park for a noise complaint, we're not going to issue a noise complaint in the park if they've got a permit for that. That makes sense? I am not, trust me, I am not trying to say this is good or bad. I'm just telling you what the reality is for a patrol officer, which I am not one. I am a crime prevention officer, I have banker's hours. So I'm not the guy responding at 2 o'clock in the morning to your house for a noise complaint, just for the record.
So a question is, totally understand that, that's a fair answer, absolutely. So a question and then a comment. So the question is, the waivers for Polaris Point. If the noise is beyond Polaris Point, way in excess, in your opinion and with your expertise, is that a state law violation? Just period, because you stated.
I get it.
Or municipal.
I can't answer that question because I don't have all the research I haven't done all that work, right? To be fair with you, a noise complaint at anywhere doesn't necessarily rise to a crime prevention issue. That's a crime response issue, right? It's a patrol response. Okay. I'm on the front end of stuff, and to be honest with you, I'm dealing with things like, how do I keep a building from being burglarized at 2 o'clock in the morning versus a noise complaint? Just where I'm at.
So my comment follow-up to this. So, given the situation we're in, J.W. Roth absolutely knows there are no consequences. Police aren't going to be involved. The city's not going to be involved. There is nothing keeping it in check. There is nothing for the community to support us. And we're talking hundreds of homes. This isn't just these people in this room. These are just the people that were available at the last minute to come here. Hundreds of families are impacted. There's no consequences. You have established an environment where there's no consequences, and you've done this willingly. What can be done going forward? We can't fix what's done in the past, but we can change things going forward, and that's what we're looking for you to do. We're going to look for all of our leaders, and we're going to hold them accountable. But this is what the expectation is from the community.
I appreciate your feedback on that. Since we only have about 5 minutes left, I want to see if there are any other questions other than Ford Amphitheater that we can respond to. You got a drag conference here, a traffic engineer here, talk about traffic. Do you have a non-Ford Amphitheater question?
Yes.
Who's that?
Me.
Okay.
So you just brought up a great statistic. I believe you said the area has grown by how much? And the police force has only grown by 17%? So we're developing too much for you people to serve and protect the existing residents. So that's an issue. So maybe we need to tone down the development so you could keep up with the crime and the noise complaints, etc. Because I know you guys are stressed. I have friends that are on the police force and in the county. It's wrong. I wish you would, I know it's hard for you to step up at the plate and say, you guys can't develop anymore because we can't keep this community safe. That would be ideal. So I think we're developing too much and the resources are not able to keep up. So shut her down until we catch up. It's a simple solution, and thank you for the statistic.
You had said that, I'm going back to the Voyager and Springcrest apartments. You had said that the city council can't do anything about it if the code is that they can build there, correct? The zoning code says that they can build the apartment there, so the city council really has no say in it, is that?
No, I didn't, that's not what I said. I said if there were a particular development that was allowed by right, that normally would be administratively approved, that particular complex is not administratively approved. But if it was administratively approved, you could still appeal it, as you see in another project, but I can't talk about making its way through the system.
Well, the reason I'm asking is because the city council changed the zoning to approve the complex. So the city council still is in the wrong because they approved it.
Again, the development you're talking about has not been approved by the city council.
Right.
Has not been approved.
No, but they changed the zoning.
They didn't change it.
No,
Not
that
yet.
has not been approved. Again,
Okay, but they're
I'm not
on
speaking
the
about-
track to
I'm
change.
not speaking any more of that other than to say that's, you're incorrect. Okay.
Yeah,
All right, I have
they're
time
working
for,
on
I'll
it.
take one final question here and then we're gonna wrap up. Yes, sir.
I'm Mike Croy, and I moved here from Austin, Texas 8 years ago, and just as far as everything that's being said, is that when I moved to Austin, I was in Austin for over 35 years, there was 350,000 people, now there's over 1 million. There is no infrastructure, it is shut down, it takes you an hour and a half, 2 hours, I mean, this is bad or worse than Denver. And I want to make sure that Colorado Springs does not become Austin, Texas. And I've said that I'd love to have a loop from Pueblo all the way to 470 to get the trucks off of I-25. The mayor, every time I see the mayor, he laughs. He goes, "I know you want a loop." Well, they did it in Austin. They did a toll 130, and then they screwed the truckers by having it being $55-60 for each terminal. So the truckers don't use it. And I'm telling you, that's the greatest thing in the world. It's 85 miles an hour and there's nobody on it.
We have in Denver, it's called 470.
That's exactly right. All I'm saying is that planning for the infrastructure to be able for us, because I'm going to tell you right now, Denver could care less about Colorado Springs, and you know that.
Yeah.
And so we've got to fight for ourselves to make sure that we have this expansion. El Paso County is bigger than 4 states. All right, we're going to pass Denver in the next, 6-8 years. And all I'm saying is that if we don't do something now for water and for traffic, we're going to be in a lot of trouble. But I love this place. I'm glad to be here, and I just don't want to see Colorado Springs become Austin, Texas.
Thank you very much. Again, if you weren't able to ask a question that you have, please take them out of my business cards. Please email me. That's the best way to get a hold of me. The phone number's on there, but if you really want to respond quickly, please email me. Thank you very much for coming tonight, and I appreciate all your feedback. Thank you.